Hi there. So I have a special treat today. This is a reduced carb white chocolate macadamia coconut cookie. This is a recipe that I adapted based off a peanut butter cookie recipe that I have that I'm still working on tweaking. But it's not going to taste like Mrs. Fields. This is just something you can enjoy that has a few less carbs than the real thing. So what I've done here is I have creamed a half a cup of cashew butter. I just got this at Sprouts. And a half a cup of non-hydrogenated vegetable shortening. I'm using Flora Foods plant butter. I have not tried this recipe with real butter, so that's what I'm using, just so you know. To this, you are going to add a third cup of this Miss Jones Smart Sugar coconut sugar blend. This is not a sugar substitute. I find that in recipes, what works is mixing sugar substitutes with real sugar. It's the same way with baking flours. Like, I get the best results when I kind of tweak it so that it uses some of one and some of the other. So you're also going to use a half a cup of erythritol based sugar alternative. I'm using the King Arthur brand, which I think is like allulose and erythritol. You can also use something like Bestie, which is available at Wholesome Young. So this is going to fluff right up. So it's going to take a minute. It kind of looks like dry ice because the sugar alternative is so fluffy and light. I use the granular kind. I don't use the powdered kind, but this is a little powdery because it's a substitute. So just don't get confused by the powder fluffing up. And then to this, you are going to add 1 egg, and a teaspoon of vanilla. Because you know I love my vanilla. I actually have my teaspoon measurer right now, so I don't have to use the cap. And go ahead and mix this in. Now the hard part about this recipe is that you have to refrigerate the dough overnight. If you can, refrigerate the dough 2 days, or you can even try freezing it overnight. It doesn't look as good. There's something about refrigerating the dough that allows all the flavors to kind of like meld together, which is really good. Okay, once that's all blended, mix in, I have here, I've sort of stirred it together with a whisk, a half a cup of Paleo flour. I'm using Bob's Red Mill, and a half a cup of regular flour. Now, the only flour that I had when I made this was bread flour, King Arthur bread flour. So that's what I continue to use. I haven't done an experiment with like non-bread flour. But if you try it, let me know in the comments how that works out. So then a half a cup of Paleo flour, a half a cup of regular flour, half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of baking powder, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Normally you would use a half a teaspoon of salt, but the cashew butter has salt in it. The plant butter has salt in it, so I just reduced the salt a little bit. And then this is the trick. So I have this mix that is it's like my coconutty mix. That's what I call it, which is half slivered almonds and half unsweetened coconut flakes. I toast those in the oven, and then I blitz them in a food processor. And I use this as kind of like a granola substitute when I want a little something on top of my yogurt. And I tried it in this recipe and it was really good. So this is a half a cup of my coconutty mix, and I'll put instructions for how to do that in this video. It's almost like a substitute for toasted oats. I don't know. I really like it on stuff. So I kind of always have a jar of it around. You want to mix this all together. It just gives the cookies like a nice, the toasting, I always toast coconut unless I'm making like macaroons, which I haven't made in like a million years. That might be coming up on my channel soon, I don't know. I find that cookies are a trigger food for me, so I go easy on them. These are not low fat. There's a lot of fat in these cookies. So once it kind of gets all mixed up, then you want to add a half a cup of sugar-free white chocolate chips. I'm using the Chalk Zero, no sugar added brand, but Lily's makes a white chocolate chip that is sugar-free. Just make sure it's sugar-free. And then a half a cup of halved macadamia nuts. This is just about a half a cup. Got these from Trader Joe's. So I always accidentally turn off my mixer. So again, it should look pretty chunky. And you're gonna let this dough sit overnight. I'm gonna bake some now, and then I'll bake some when they sit overnight so that you can see the difference. So we're back next day with our white chocolate macadamia coconut cookies. Again, these are pretty high fat. They're somewhat reduced carb than a regular cookie because they use sugar substitutes, high fiber coconut sugar blends, and white chocolate chips that are sugar-free. So they are not low carb, they're just reduced carb. But I think they still taste delicious. So when you have your dough, just give it a roll. I like to flatten it a little bit so it's like a hockey puck shape. And then put them on your tray. Pro tip, if you bake these in a toaster oven, you can only bake 4 or 5 at a time instead of a dozen. So you have enough for you and a friend. I'm just going to make 3 right now, which again is an advantage of a toaster oven. You don't have to heat up the whole oven and waste all that energy just to make 3 cookies. It's one for me, one for my sis, and one for my nephew. So take those cookies. Once your oven is preheated, you want to bake them for about 10 minutes. Err on the side of caution. Every oven is different, but I'm going to pop these in, and I'll see you in 10 minutes. All right, it's been 10 minutes, and I've let these cookies cool for probably about another 5 or 6 minutes. It's best when you take them out of the oven when the tops are dry. And then what I do is I kind of like bang the pan on the counter, which forces the cookies to collapse. It forces all the air out of the cookies. And then I let them cool on the pan. And they'll continue to cook for like another minute on the pan. But that's kind of the way I roll with all my cookies, low carb or not. And you see the difference between this cookie, which I made yesterday right out the gate. It's very brown around the edges, dry. And then this cookie, which I made just now, which is like so tender and gooey. It's like coming apart in the middle. but you get that nice, good gooiness inside the cookie. These are super, super moist. In the middle, they're sweet, but they're not cloyingly sweet, like some other white chocolate macadamia cookies that you can buy at the mall. I really enjoy them, but they are high fat, so indulge, but not too much. Those are white chocolate coconut macadamia cookies with few less carbs than your average mall cookie. Enjoy.